After you've had, a couple of gigs under your belt, you should get some notion for the kind of stuff you ought to be doing. And as I say, there's various different types of comedy you can do. You could do political comedy, slagging off the current affairs and public figures of the day and all that. You have to be quite clever for that kind of stuff, to be honest with you, and preferably quite passionate. If somebody just goes, "Oh, the BNP, they're a bunch of right-wing bastards, aren't they?" It can sound quite trite.
Yeah.
You want to try and have something to say, basically. And without disrespecting political comedians, if you really have something to say that's interesting, you can get away with being slightly less funny as well, provided you're saying something that's of great import that really does change how people think. Observational comedy is the notion of basically just pointing out things that people have kind of noticed but haven't really noticed that they've noticed.
Right.
That's the kind of comedy I do a lot of. That's getting harder and harder to do as it's been around as long as it has.
Yes.
When Billy Connolly started out, it was amazing. It hadn't really been done before over here. Billy Connolly, Dave Allen. Like, looking back, you could just point stuff out that, like a great line by Billy Connolly was that one about, have you ever noticed when you throw up, there's always diced carrots in it? I've never eaten diced carrots in my life. And that on its own is funny. He then goes on to the notion that maybe there's a guy going around with a pocket full of diced carrots following drunk men, But that kind of thing is, that was revolutionary, because it just, that idea of just pointing out things like that we hadn't noticed before, or as I say, hadn't noticed that we'd noticed. As I say, now it's a lot trickier to do because observational comedy has been around for so long. These things have nearly all been pointed out now. So to try and find new things to point out that people still know what you're talking about, that aren't so obscure that no one's noticed them before, that's very tricky.
Tough.
Yeah. So that's your observational comedy. Then you get your anecdotal comedy, which is basically storytelling, which is another thing I do quite a lot of. A funny thing happened to me on the way to the gig, that sort of stuff. The trick with anecdotal stuff is you can bend the truth a little bit, but you have to make it sound like it's still true.
Yeah.
Telling tall tales there's a great tradition of that since before stand-up comedians ever plugged in a microphone. And the idea with that is just, tell a tale that's funny, and you can exaggerate it, it can be slightly funnier than what really happened, but it still has to sound true. Otherwise people will be like, I don't know about that. Unless, of course, you do the other type of comedy, which is surrealism. Mighty Boosh, that sort of thing. Harry Hill, that sort of weird, wacky, out there stuff, where you take somebody's mind on a trip. The young people like that a lot.